Set against the backdrop of San Francisco, we meet Nelson Moss, who is a high-powered advertising executive. His life is meticulously structured around his career, leaving little room for personal connections. Even after a long night biology workout with his girlfriend Angelica, he is the epitome of a workaholic, constantly tethered to his phone and laptop, his mind always on the next big campaign. He heads to his office, where we meet his friend and colleague, Vince Holland. They plan for their next campaign, and right then, Nelson is reminded that he needs to visit the DMV for a test. Initially, Nelson wants to reschedule, but is said otherwise, since he might end up behind bars. So reluctantly, he heads to the DMV for the test. Nelson's life takes an unexpected turn when he encounters Sarah Deaver at the DMV. Their initial meeting is anything but pleasant. Nelson, intended on cheating, asks Sarah for the answers, but this ends up with Sarah getting mixed up by the invigilator and her test got canceled. Nelson isn't bothered for causing this and continues on with the test, while Sarah heads out wishing him luck. After the test, Sarah waits for Nelson, who happens to offer her money for causing her trouble, but she doesn't like the idea. He manages to brush her off and drive away. The day moves on as usual for him, but that night, Nelson gets a surprise visit from Sarah. She manages to talk to the doorman, Manny, to let her in, and Nelson meets her outside. She asks him to take her for a quick ride, since she cannot drive, and him being the reason. Reluctantly, he takes her and ends up in an abandoned alleyway. While he thinks this was a bad idea, Sarah quickly gets outside and breaks in a building and runs out with a bag. Nelson doesn't want in on whatever she took with her, but she opens the bag to show to puppies. Nelson gives his okay since they were puppies and drives her home. Before she heads in, Sarah invites him in. Hearing this, Nelson immediately gets out and follows her in. Despite their rocky start, Sarah is intrigued by Nelson. She sees through his tough exterior to the loneliness and dissatisfaction he hides. Determined to help him break free from his self-imposed constraints, Sarah makes a bold proposition and invites Nelson to live with her for the month of November. She promises that this one-month experiment will change his life, offering him a chance to rediscover the joys of living. Nelson is amazed to hear how she just invited a stranger to move in with her. He explains to her that he doesn't need any help, and he also has a girlfriend. Sarah feels sorry for her and tells him that he is living in a cage, and living with her will definitely free him from it. She offers herself to him for the entire month completely and insists that he take her up, but Nelson leaves. The next day, Nelson is presenting his campaign to the clients. They are a hot dog company, and Nelson really spiced up the whole idea of a hot dog. His fierce presentation is viewed with interest by both the clients and his colleagues, but at the end, the client rejects his idea since it doesn't suit their firm. Nelson doesn't accept the rejection and gets into a heated argument with the client, and it all ends bitter. Nelson is still in on his high horse, and his boss advises him to take a vacation, but Nelson insists on taking on another client. With Nelson just causing the firm a huge loss, the boss fires him right away and asks Nelson to leave. Heading home, Nelson finds Angelica only to discover that she is leaving him. Frustrated to get hit in the face twice, Nelson goes crazy and smashes his awards and injures his hand. Manny knocks his door, informing that the crazy lady from the night before left him a delivery. Nelson gets the box and finds one of the puppies she got inside. Furious, Nelson rushes to her home with the puppy. Sarah welcomes him with a bright smile while getting the puppy she named Ernie from him. She notices that his hand is injured and offers to take a look. This ends up in her introducing him to her biology class. In the morning, Nelson calls Vince to arrange a meeting with Edgar Price, a highly sought-out client in the field. Then he finds Sarah bring him a new set of clothes. She tells him that she gave his clothes away and that he has to wear what she gave her. Right then, Chaz Watley, who lives downstairs, walks in and refers Nelson as Sarah's November. Nelson is surprised to hear that, and as they head out, Sarah introduces him to the neighborhood kid, Abner. Nelson tells her that he doesn't have time for all this, and that he doesn't understand why she is doing all this. Sarah mentions that he doesn't need to understand her and just be with her and believe her. Nelson accepts her finally and decides to follow her. She takes him dog walking by the beach. She opens up about her owning a pet care facility along with her sister, and that she opted out just before it got really big. Nelson also mentions that his parents died, and even though he owns the house, he doesn't go there. After she plays with the dogs, they head for a walk by the park. The day ends with them having dinner outside, and Nelson thanks her for the day, and even though he had a great time for the first time in a while, he suggests that he leaves. Sarah mentions the order of things he will be doing once he goes back, and that by the end of the night, he will be thinking about her. Things happen the same way, and the next morning, Nelson heads back to Sarah's place with the conviction to go through with the plan of hers. Sarah takes Nelson to a soapbox derby race where Abner is participating. Initially uninterested, Nelson gets drawn into the race since the other kids ridicule Abner. Sarah goes ahead to cheer for Abner, and Nelson goes behind the scenes and bribes a teen with a submarine to sabotage the other boats. Sarah notices this but still cheers for Abner. Despite the complaints of the other kids, Abner returns home happy with the victory. And Sarah points out that it is not good for Abner in the long run, but Nelson refuses to stand by watching the other kids talk down to him. They head out for dinner, and Sarah digs into more of his past, and Nelson opens up about how his father was a sales guy too, and was always into it. Nelson also mentions that he wanted to be a singer for a while and practiced so hard, but she will never hear him sing ever. The following day, Nelson, Sarah, and Abner have breakfast together, and Vince drops by to get shocked to find Sarah and Nelson's new life. He leaves soon after, reminding about the meeting with Edgar Price the following week. The days go by as Nelson and Sarah get closer and enjoy every moment together. Then one day, Chaz drops in to invite them both to dinner. Despite wanting to spend time with each other, Sarah and Nelson get ready and go to Chaz's place. Nelson is surprised to find Chaz in a dress, and he is accompanied by his partner, Brandon. They share a drink and enjoy a lively dinner. Later, Nelson and Chaz start chatting while they watch the TV, and they are interrupted by Sarah on the phone. She hangs up and questions Chaz, but decides to stop since he mentions this is not the time to talk about it. Sarah heads back upstairs, and a confused Nelson asks Chaz what was that all about. Chaz says that it was her sister on the phone, and also that he is not going to say anymore. Nelson heads up as well and asks Sarah about it, but seeing her dodge the question, he decides to let her be. The following day is their meeting with Edgar Price, and while Nelson is getting ready, Sarah tries her best to make him reschedule it and not think about work. But since it is such a huge opportunity, Nelson leaves for the meeting. Vince got the table at an expensive place and tries his best to get the deal. But Edgar seems rather interested in having Nelson than Vince, but since they wish to join together, he decides to offer them a deal. At this time, Chaz and Sarah are out on a walk, and she feels really bad about not being able to stop Nelson from heading over to the meeting. Going back to the meeting, right before Edgar is about to write down the offer, the waitress unfortunately trips over their table. He berates her doing such a sloppy job that she leaves in tears, and this action doesn't sit well with Nelson. Edgar hands over the price to Vince, and as he looks happy about the offer, Nelson, not giving a glance at it, straight away rejects his offer with the reason being not liking him as a person. Edgar leaves, and Vince is not happy and argues with Nelson since he blew up the deal, which included him as well. Vince goes crazy over what just happened, and Nelson takes a cab and leaves. When he finds Sarah, Nelson gets down with a bouquet of flowers, revealing that he turned down the offer of a lifetime to be with her. The next day, Sarah informs that she found someone who's willing to take care of Ernie and asks him to take it out to the person since she couldn't handle it. As he returns, he comes across Abner, who asks Nelson to join him for Father-Son Day at school on Monday. Nelson agrees, and as he gets back, Nelson begins to see the world and himself in a new light. So as soon as he gets back, he asks Sarah to marry him. She is indeed shocked to hear this, and even though she feels the same way, she reluctantly rejects him. She heads inside the washroom as she tells him her answer. Hearing her groan in pain, Nelson forces in to find her on the floor, and ignoring her cries, he opens her cabinet to find it completely filled with medicine. Sarah freaks out and throws the bottles at him and faints on the floor. In the next scene, we find Sarah hospitalized, and Chaz reveals to Nelson that Sarah's got cancer. Since she will be asleep for some time, he invites him out for a drink and explains how she stopped taking treatment over a year ago. She tried all the treatments, but since there was no sign of improvement, she stopped. She wanted to live life her own way, but since her family didn't approve her ways, she left home. She started helping guys to get over her situation, and they usually leave before they find out. After Sarah gets discharged, Chaz and Brandon take care of her and ask Nelson to leave her for a while. Right then, Abner walks in reminding him that today is Father Sunday. Nelson joins him, and Abner introduces him as a bigger best friend and thanks him for keeping the promise. Nelson heads to his home, and the memories he created with Sarah flash through his mind. The following day, Sarah tells Chaz about Nelson, asking her to marry him. And for once, even though she wanted to agree, she couldn't, given her condition. Chaz tells her that it's gonna hurt no matter what she decides. They share a feast with the other neighbors, and right then, Nelson drops in as Santa, with a big bag with him. Chaz asks everyone to join him out and leave the two be. Nelson starts taking out present after present, making Sarah happy. And lastly, he even brought Ernie back to her, and right when she thought it was over, Nelson reveals that he's got one more thing for her. We transition to the scene where Nelson is singing at a local bar for Sarah, and he's pretty good too. Sarah's given in, and when they return, Sarah finds her room completely covered with the calendar of November. Nelson mentions that every month is their month hereafter and it never has to end. Sarah gives in and they get to one last biology class together. In the morning, Nelson wakes up to find Sarah leaving the house and runs after her. He catches up to her and asks her what's wrong. Sarah tells him that this is not how she wants him to remember her. When he thinks of her, all that he should remember is how great she was and how she lived. Despite his persistence, Sarah reveals that she's decided to head back home and start treatment again, and leaves him after blindfolding him with her scarf. He takes the blindfold off and finds her gone. Now we all join together thinking, what did we just watch? Hope I saved your time watching this 2001 movie called Sweet November. I felt left out after going through all that, and with how Sarah just left him and Nelson just takes it in. We could say that he loved her enough to let her go, but come on, they could have been together. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I shall see you again with another video like this. Until then, this is your host for Movie Recap signing off.